Hello, everybody, and welcome to 2025's last show of Tell Me Why, a short, sharp podcast for busy Beatles people on the go who want to be in the know. I'm Jude Sutherland Kessler, and I'm your host for the show. And before we go on, I want to just stop and say a very heartfelt thank you to everyone who pre-ordered the fifth point two. It's really the sixth book in the John Lennon series, but my editor will kill me if I call it the sixth because it's the second part of volume five. So 5.1, whatever you want to say, Some Forever, which is the second half of this book, Shades of Life, which together in 1,600 pages, they tell the story of 1965. And Some Forever, an author isn't supposed to have favorite books, just like mothers don't have favorite children. Yeah, right. But I have to say, this book opens with Shea Stadium 1965, which is so phenomenal that when asked about Shea Stadium 66, George Harrison quite honestly said, uh, did we play Shea Stadium in 66? I mean, they only remember 65. They go right on to the horrifyingly dangerous 1965 North American tour. And each one of the episodes is recorded and then to the Rock and Roll Summit with Elvis, which what a night. They come back, have a few days off, and then they are tasked with writing all of the songs except for one, Wait, which is in the can, and recording Rubber Soul, an earth shaking LP that changes the landscape of Beatles music. Immediately, they go to receive their MBE at the Palace with the Queen, and then they go off on the very last sentimental, poignant UK tour. They're never going to tour England again. And it's just a very emotional book. And you guys have been so supportive. So thank you from my heart. I really do appreciate it. So, okay, on to much more important thing. My guest today, I've known for several years, and our paths in life crossed many times without us knowing it. He was born in the Bronx, but by the time he was five, he had moved to the Washington, D.C. metro area, which is where I went to the University of Maryland to do my graduate studies and go on and teach school there. When he graduated from high school in 1977, that very year, my husband was graduating from the Naval Academy in 77, and I was teaching at a junior high school in Landover, Maryland, not so far away. So, I mean, many times we're in the same vicinity. Started his career as a stand-up comedian, and because he's so smart and savvy, he was picked up almost immediately by the number one morning talk show in the Washington metro area. And the work that he did on that show was so phenomenal that they gave him his own show, which was, I believe, called DC 20 Breakaway. It was a great show, and he won, get this, an Emmy Award for it. So, wow. Well, news like that spreads quickly, and it spreads to New York. And before long, he was invited to join Good Morning America, where for years and years, all of you out there spent your mornings with him with your cup of coffee and brushing your teeth and getting ready for work. You were listening to the weather reports and the special reports and all of the human interest stories that he was bringing all of us. And it became really like a member of our family. You felt like this is someone that you knew. I distinctly remember him. I think it was 2005. He can tell me on the Macy's parade because they were celebrating I think, an anniversary of Good Morning America. So this is someone that you came to know very intimately. But a lady named Sue Monk Kidd, a great author who wrote the book The Mermaid Chair and lots of other books, said this: you can live in other places, all right. You can even live on the other side of the world, but you can't ever leave home. And John Lennon felt that, and so did our guest today. You can't ever leave home. Above John's bed in the Dakota was a picture of his high school, Quarry Bank Grammar. And so our guest today decided no matter how wonderful New York was, he wanted to go home to DC. And he did. And he started with a station that he had known for years, WTTG. Before long, he was co-anchoring the nightly news with Sean Yancey. And again, guess what? He wins an Emmy Award. So I just feel like his success has been part of all of our life story. And he is a huge Beatles fan and he's had wonderful Beatles things happen to him. So I couldn't be more excited to welcome to the show your friend, my friend, Mr. Tony Perkins. Yay!
Hey, hello, Jude. Hello, everybody. That's quite an intro. You even touched on things that I've forgotten about.
Well, I mean, you're part of our lives and we're glad you're back home. Are you happy and loving what you're doing now?
It's all kind of come full circle. I'm back in the Washington area. I've been back here for quite some time, and the main reason I came back is because when my son was born, I was splitting my time between Washington and New York, and my wife and I just decided, you know what, we want to raise him in the Washington area in Virginia. That's where we live. We like the green space and all of that. So that's what I did. I came back home, and my son is now 22 years old, graduated from the University of Maryland. There's another connection there. And it was a very, very good decision. I loved my years at Good Morning America. Just went back there actually for the 50th anniversary of the show. And but I love being here. I love being home, and it was the right decision.
Yeah, I know that feeling. We just moved back to a town that we've moved 33 or 34 times since we've
Oh
been
my
married.
goodness.
And this little town that we're in, really close to Mississippi and Louisiana, just felt like home. And we just moved back. And when you reach that space, it's right, isn't it?
Right. That's right. Absolutely right.
It's right. Well, I started adding up the numbers, and you were almost a second gen fan because were you born in 59? Am I right about
Born in
that?
59. That's right.
Okay. So, how did you become, what happened? What's your story? How did you become a Beatles fan?
So first, let me say it's a thrill to be on your show. You're so knowledgeable. You're such a genuine fan. I love all of that about you, and you, as always, you've gone right to an interesting nugget because you said I'm almost a second generation fan. I frequently don't know how to classify myself, first generation or second generation. I was five when they were on the. Actually, I wasn't even five yet when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show. And my earliest childhood memories are all musical memories for some reason. I always think maybe I was supposed to be a musician, but I don't have much talent in that regard. But one of my very first memories is seeing them on the Ed Sullivan Show. Now, I was 4 years old, so it's not like it was this overwhelming rush of, oh my goodness, the future is here and all that kind of thing. It was just, it was fascinating to a 4 year old. I liked the music. And so that's my first memory. The story that I like to tell and the story that I am going to tell, I'm going to follow in your footsteps, Jude, and write a book finally. I've just started it. Um, Part of the story that's interesting to me is that I grew up in Southwest Washington, D.C., in an environment that was an all black, all African American family, neighborhood, school that I eventually went to. Um, my early influences, most of the music we listened to was Motown, James Brown, Aretha Franklin. My mom loved Dionne Warwick, Johnny Mathis. So that was what I listened to. That was my upbringing. Yet I have several memories during the 60s when I was a kid of the Ed Sullivan Show, the Beatles cartoon, which I watched. Um, the first time A Hard Day's Night was shown on network TV. I don't remember when that was, but I remember watching it and loving it and laughing and just really being attracted to the music. So the Beatles filtered into my consciousness, and I liked them. My mom actually, she was both my mom and dad were big music collectors, and but like I said, our music collection was mostly soul music, as they called it then, R&B. Um, but the Beatles were so big, my mom bought the Meet the Beatles album, and I remember her listening to it. I remember listening to it in the early 70s. We were in a department store, and that's when department stores still had record departments. And we're walking by the record department, and I see the Meet the Beatles album. And I just kind of walked up to it like I was drawn to it. And I picked it up, looked at it, and I said to my mom, "Don't we have this album?" And she said, "Well, we had the album, but you took it out one day and slid across the floor on it. So you ruined it." So I said, "Can we buy this?" And she said, "Sure." And took it home, loved it. It hit all these memories. Um, I loved "I Want to Hold Your Hand." I saw her standing there. For some reason, the song that really drew me in, and I know this is a song that you love, was "This Boy." I loved "This Boy." Um, and again, I was a kid, so I didn't know about harmonic structure and all that kind of stuff. But I loved it, and I played the album incessantly, and then ended up going out and buying the Beatles' second album, and then buying, because we're in America, I bought their what I thought was their third album, Something New. And I remember at that time thinking, okay, that's enough. I can't be buying a whole bunch of Beatle albums. I've got Jackson 5, Diana Ross and the Supremes, Sly Stone. And it felt a little bit weird, but the pull was strong. And I just kept going back to the well and I became a fan through the music first. But I have to say, um, it was really the whole package. If you think about the Beatles, not just the music, when you would see them on interviews and TV shows, they were funny. Um, they had a look that was unique and very cool. And, then once I started buying or, wanting to buy the albums, I would flip through the albums in the record store and it was like, I would see Sergeant Pepper and I would think, what? This is the same group that, did I Want to Hold Your Hand? So it became a whole fascination, fixation, and it has never waned. The
Well, you know who else loved R&B and soul music, right? The Beatles.
Beatles. Yeah, right. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
So
Well,
much of what they do is it's born right there.
and I think that was part of the appeal. I really do because they were, people don't necessarily put the word soulful with them, but to me, soul is it's not just R&B music. It is the feeling that comes through the music, this organic love for the music and what you're doing, and boy, did that come through. Their
Yeah.
renditions of old soul songs, Motown songs, "Money,"
Yeah.
you've got to hide your love. Not you've got to. You've really got a hold on me.
Oh,
Um,
the best.
fantastic,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. And so much of that three-part harmony that we hear in this boy, I mean, you can picture the doo-wop groups on the
Oh,
street corners. You
to
know,
me, and
it's
I
all there.
think it's all there. And John said this. I think John said it about a different song. I might be wrong, but on the Meet the Beatles album, "All I've Got to Do." That's a straight up Smokey Robinson song. You can hear Smokey and the Miracles singing that song.
Yeah,
So the influences were very, very strong.
they were. And he said, I want to be Smokey Robinson.
Right. George too.
Yeah. You know, that's what they wanted. Ringo, I think, had more of he was pulled to country and Western,
Yes.
it
Yes.
was always a thing with him. He was going to go to Texas and be a cowboy, as you know, and he
Right.
really pulled. But boy, both John and George very heavily influenced by the music of Motown.
Right.
Early 19,
Early Motown. That's
yeah,
right. That's
early,
right.
early. Well, you have so many things that other Beatles fans would absolutely kill to have happened to them. You not only met Ringo, but you interviewed him. And do I have this right? Did you sing with him?
I did. Uh, it's crazy. So, aside from my family, my faith, um, that kind of thing, honestly, the most important influence in my life has been the Beatles. Um, I have a I have a Beatles room in my house, much like what you've got with the collecting, the memorabilia, all the recordings, all the books, and everything. It's extensive, and they have influenced my life. So when I got to Good Morning America, um, I'd been there for 2 years, and I was kind of one of the things that I got to do besides the weather was I did a lot of entertainment stuff. And I have a great love of music. I have I have very eclectic taste in music, and so they let me do a lot of the music stuff. I interviewed Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, all four of them together when they reunited. Interviewed BB King, um, Steve Van Zandt, just all kinds of people. Stevie Wonder. And in 2001, Ringo was going on tour with the All Star Band, and my producer, Gary Stein, who I used to do a podcast with, who's my dear friend still, he came to me and he said, "Hey, would you like to interview Ringo Starr?" And I said, "Yes." So he reached out to Ringo's people. Ringo and the band were rehearsing in Atlantic City before the tour began. And we he set it up. Gary set it up. And I remember as the day was getting closer and closer, I remember just thinking, there is no way this is going to happen. There's no way I'm going to meet Ringo Starr and sit down and interview him. And in fact, even on Gary went down there ahead of me to set everything up and all that. But I remember riding in the car from the city down to Atlantic City and just thinking, at any moment, my phone is going to ring and Gary's going to say, turn around, he's canceled it, whatever. Lo and behold, I get there, it's still on. Um, Gary and I were outside of the rehearsal space, which was a big room, talking to Ringo's PR person. You probably know her, Elizabeth Freund, and some other people. We hear the band playing. She's kind of going over, here's what's going to happen, blah, blah, blah. The music stops, and just all of a sudden the door opens and Ringo walks out. Just, I mean, and I was startled. It was like, that's Ringo Starr standing right next to me. And Elizabeth introduces me to him and says, Ringo, this is Tony Perkins. He's going to be doing the interview for Good Morning America. And I don't know why I can't remember this, but the first thing Ringo said to me, it was a joke. And it was a play on my name because I have the same name as the actor from Psycho. And he said something like, oh, Tony Perkins, eh? I'll never stay in one of your hotels, something like that. And I laughed, and we all laughed, and it broke the ice immediately. That's the main thing I remember. He put me at ease immediately. So then we go in, we set up, we do the interview. I spend maybe 25 minutes with him. Um, get to ask him some questions that I had always wanted answers to. He was great. He was funny. He could tell very quickly that I knew my stuff, and I wasn't just some of the questions. You have to ask some of the questions that everyone asks, but I tried to ask questions that maybe he hadn't been asked before, or at least not frequently. And one of them was there ever a time after 1969 when you, Paul, George, and John were in a room together again, because there doesn't seem to be. And he said, well, in a room together, sure, but we never played together. And I said, no, I know that. And he said, well, it was all very different, whatever, something like that. And I love Ringo. I've interviewed him several times since then. But I think he's mistaken. I don't think the four of them were ever in a room together again. It probably feels like they were because there might have been two of them, three of them, whatever. But anyway, I interviewed Ringo, spent 25 minutes with him. One of my favorite things about the interview is at the end of it, we finished up, we both stood up, and he said, "Oh, come on, give me one of those hugs," and we hugged each other. Um, and he really enjoyed the interview. His PR person told me afterwards that was great. Ringo really liked it. After the interview, after he left the room, I I still get a little choked up about this. I kind of went off to the corner of the room just to be by myself for a couple of minutes and got very emotional, because I just thought I can't believe I just sat down with Ringo Starr. And I called my mom and I said, I just talked to Ringo, and she was thrilled for me. Um, it was great. And I'm very happy and proud to say that because, um, you know, I spent a good amount of time with him. And we just got on. I interviewed him a few more times for Good Morning America. On one occasion, when he after I think when he was promoting the Ringo Rama album and they were going out again on tour, I again was with him in the rehearsal studio, him and Mark Hudson and the others, and they let me sing with him while he was doing "I Want to Be Your Man," and which was great. We have that on tape and we showed that on the air. And then when he appeared live on the show in our summer concert series, I went on stage with him and John Waite and Colin Hay and sang with a little help from my friends. And it was great. And in the footage, you can see me at one point because I'm with John Waite singing, "Do you need anybody?" Whatever. And you can see me kind of look over and see Ringo singing back to us. I'm like, ah! Very, very cool.
Well, that morning that you were singing with John Waite and Ringo on that stage, in the front row, I was standing.
Are you serious?
I arrived, we lived in Morrisville, Pennsylvania at that time, and Rand and I thought if we got there at midnight, we would be one of the first people in line, but we were not. But about probably 4:35 a.m., somewhere in there, a gentleman from Good Morning America comes out with an umbrella and says, "Who deserves to be on the front row?" And I won't tell you how I got on the front row. It's shameful. Something about having the words Ringo across my chest. Shameful. It's a shameful story.
You
And
got to do what you got to do.
when I said, "I do," and showed the red glittered letters on my dress, he went front of the line. So I was there with a poster. I wanted Ringo to know that I knew more about him than the fact that he'd been in the Beatles. The
Right.
poster said, "Richie, congrats on smashing the Keller stage, Kaiser Keller stage
Right. Yeah.
for the Beatles." Because remember Rory Storm of the
Right.
Hurricane?
That's right.
That competition. And y'all were just starting that song, and he read the poster and started laughing and had to start that song over, go back and look at the footage.
Oh, that's great.
Another connection. You and
Right. 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 Right.
I love that. And you almost made me cry. Oh my gosh. What a moment you had with him. What a
Can I
moment.
tell? Can I tell you two other things, just real quick?
Yeah.
The last time I interviewed him was um, probably about 8 years ago, for a podcast that Gary and I were doing, and we flew out. Well, I was in LA already, and it turns out Ringo was there. Um, he was, I think he was recording or something. Um, but Gary flew out and we interviewed him for the podcast, and it was in the Capitol Studios where Paul recorded "Kisses on the Bottom" and where Frank Sinatra recorded and all that kind of stuff. So we're sitting there waiting for Ringo to come in, and all of a sudden I hear a door open, and I hear this Liverpudlian voice, "Tony Perkins, Tony Perkins," and he comes over and we hug and everything. And again, I just thought, this is crazy. This guy knows me at this point, knows my name, and it's surreal. But I want to tell you something very special to me, and that tells you everything you need to know about Ringo. Um, when my son was born in 2003. So I'd interviewed Ringo a couple of times by then. Um, and I was still on Good Morning America. But my son was born here in Virginia, and I was off for about 6 weeks for paternity leave be with my wife and everything. When we came home from the hospital after my son was born, there was a huge bouquet of flowers that had been delivered to us. And I should have looked for the picture. Huge bouquet of flowers with a card that said, "Congratulations." I'm paraphrasing now. I have the card downstairs, but it said, "Congratulations, uh, Tony, Rhonda, and little Ringo on the birth of your son." Blah 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 blah. A couple other words. Love, Ringo. I couldn't believe that. I couldn't believe that. Um, you know, that's extraordinary to me. And however it happened, I don't care if his publicist said, "Hey, Tony and his wife had a baby. Maybe you should send him something," or if he said, "Well, let's send him something," whatever. It was great. That's extraordinary. So
It is
he's
extraordinary. And
he's near and dear to my heart.
it's a comment on two people. It's a comment on Ringo and what a genuine, kind, good man he is.
Yep.
And it's a comment on Tony Perkins, who left such an impression on Ringo's heart that he didn't forget you. And you became his friend. And so that says a lot about both of you. I mean, I've never cried on Tell Me Why before, but
Hey, it
that,
gets me choked up. It gets me choked up.
I mean, that's both that good on both of you because you're both really great guys, and that says a lot about both of you.
And the other thing about Ringo, and this, and the story that you told about the poster that you made.
Yeah,
Ringo has talked about this openly. All people want to talk to him about is 8 particular years of his life, but it's been an extraordinary life before and after. I mean, my God, we're blessed that Ringo is with us and was even with us in the '60s because of his illnesses when he was a kid. So, you know, if I mean, I'm genuinely interested in the other things Ringo has done, has accomplished. I think he was uh, the heart and soul of the Beatles, and I think that I the Beatles were full of talent, obviously. Um, and when they had Pete Best, who I've also met, they were talented. But I honestly don't think the Beatles would have become the Beatles like they did without Ringo. I
yeah,
think Ringo was a crucial component. His personality, his demeanor, his looks, his humor, and his drumming, which is extraordinary.
yeah,
And they'll all tell you. And you ask any rock drummer out there, particularly who grew up during the Ringo years, they'll say, "Oh my God, he's the greatest." And
yeah.
people try to do what he did, they can't do it because of his particular way of drumming and left-handed on the right hand set and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I know Pete also, and I will say that probably of all the people I've met in Liverpool, Pete is the sweetest. He holds no grudges against anyone. He is a forgiving, kind, good man, and I just love him, and I love
Me
his
too.
family. But
Me too.
I agree with you. It took the four elements, and Ringo is earth. And if you don't have that element in with the fire and the water,
Right,
you got to have the whole thing. And
right,
Ringo is the star of both the shows. He is a necessary element. So
absolutely.
yeah, you're so right. Well, now we're going to save Paul because I'm hoping that we get to do this show again because we have too much to talk about. We'll save Paul for the next show, but just to let everyone out there know, he also knows Paul quite well too. So we're going to save that. But
I'll say this just to be because I believe in honesty. I won't say I know him well. I've met
okay,
him on a couple of occasions, have
okay,
talked to him very briefly, but I don't know him like Ringo.
okay. But how about your interview with both Olivia Harrison and Yoko Ono? Tell us about that.
I'm thrilled that I've met and talked to Paul, Ringo, and Pete. Um, unfortunately, John, like a lot of people, I don't know if you did you ever go to the Dakota while John was alive?
Yeah.
No, I didn't. My friend Richard and I, we were teenagers, and we both always planned on going. Because we knew, hey, you can just go hang out and you'll meet John Lennon, and we
Yeah.
never did it. But years later, during the GMA years, I met Yoko twice. Once at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame when she was. They had set up an exhibit uh, um, on John and Yoko, and I interviewed her briefly. And then another time, do you remember they had the John Lennon songwriting bus?
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
So
Yeah.
they brought that to GMA, and she was on the bus, and I got on the bus and interviewed her there. So my interactions with her were brief. You know, she's very protective, as you could understand. So I can't say that we hit it off or anything, but I was respectful towards her. She was great with me. So that was fine. Olivia, I interviewed twice, again during the GMA years when the 30th anniversary, maybe, I'm not sure what it was, of the concert for Bangladesh came out. And
Right.
yeah, and she was promoting that and talking about that. And I interviewed her. She's just very, very sweet and very unassuming. Um, but she was nervous because she hadn't gone out and done interviews on her own. So when I interviewed her, the first time I interviewed her was with Jan Wenner from Rolling Stone, the editor and publisher of Rolling Stone. And then the second time I interviewed her was with Stephen Van Zandt because she just wanted someone there, and Steve could talk about George's influence and all of that kind of stuff. So it was like twofers. But it was great. It was very insightful, and she was lovely. I'm very fortunate to have talked to her too.
Yeah, you probably know Jim Birkenstadt, who wrote The
Yes,
Beatles Who Vanished, and Jim works with the Harrison family and does the historical documentation. He did it for Living in the Material World, and
right.
he's just like there isn't a sweeter person than Olivia. She's just
And that comes across. And you know what I have to say? Most of the people, well, everyone that I've met from that universe, the Beatles universe, it's, and we know this from looking at the anthology and everything, all genuine people who appreciate, I think, what happened to them, what their role, the role that they assumed in our lives. And I think they appreciate it. Does it get tiring at times to always have people coming at you? I'm sure it does, but they handle it very well, including Paul, and we'll talk about that another time. You know.
well, because we have such a short show, there's a benefit to having a short show because I hope that people jump in the shower and are listening on their Alexa, which if I say her name, she'll say, "What do I want?" Uh, or whatever device they're listening on, and they can hear it in 20 minutes. And by the time that their hair has come, they've heard. But it is also so short, and we have so much left to talk about that I hope you'll come back in January and we can reprise this visit and talk about Paul and your trip to London and your trip to Liverpool.
Yes, yes, yes.
Will that work for you?
Absolutely, I would love to do it. Listen, I think you're fantastic. I'm so glad you're doing this. There are a lot of different ways people can go to get their Beatles fix, but this is one of them, and wonderful. And we've been trying to do this a long time. Thank you for your patience and us hooking up and making this work. But I would love to.
Oh, that is great. So, everybody, mark your calendars for around mid-January. It takes us a couple of days to engineer a show, but we'll get out to you. And if you want us to send you a notice to your email when this is coming out, just go to johnlennonseries.com, sign up for the newsletter, and we'll send you a notice. If you don't want to do that, because everybody and their brother is sending newsletters and emails, and that's the bulk of my email now. So if you
Right.
don't want to do that, you can look for it on the Tell Me Why channel on YouTube, on Apple Podcast, on the John Lennon series on Instagram, on my Jude Sutherland Kessler page on Facebook. There are lots of places that you can find it. And we hope that you'll join us next time to hear about the meetings with Paul and the trip to Liverpool. Now, Tony, we close every show with the same question, and that is, what's your favorite John Lennon quote? Can be anything from anywhere, as Marie Barone once famously said on Everybody Loves Raymond. It can be a lyric, or it can be something he said or something in his books. What's your favorite?
Well, my favorite is one that has been said many times on your show, so I won't repeat it. The whole "life is what happens to you." That I mean, that's such a brilliant, brilliant. I always say that's the best line in pop music. It really, I really think it is. But I'm going to go with something else that John said off the top of his head, but that has lived on in immortality. And one of the reasons I like it is because, and maybe we'll talk about this on the next show. There's so much about the Beatles story that is kind of mystical to me. It's almost like it was meant to be in terms of how they met each other and the people they met, George Martin, Brian Epstein, all that kind of stuff. But one of my favorite quotes is, "I'd like to thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves, and I hope we pass the audition."
I love that. No one has used that. And it's so
I
true.
mean, the last words on the last released album, it's perfect. It's
It's perfect.
perfect.
It is perfect. Let's start next time with that thought of yours about it being meant to be.
Yes.
And you tell me some of the reasons that you think it was meant to be. And I have one story I'll share with you. It's a
Good.
short story that I
Excellent.
think is undeniably proves what you just said,
Yep.
undeniably. So
Yep.
thank you to everyone for joining us. And Tony, where can they find you these days?
I am in the Washington area, although, if you live here, you can see me, but you can see me anywhere online. I am the early morning co-anchor for on NBC4 for News4 Today, which is the early morning show that comes on before the Today Show. And I also fill in on other shifts when people are off and all that kind of stuff. That's where you'll find me. I'm on social media, Tony Perkins FM TV on Instagram, and then hopefully in 2026, later in the year, I can come back on the show and promote a book.
That's great. I am so excited about you doing that. So, that is wonderful, wonderful,
Been a
wonderful.
long time coming.
Yes. And then you've got exciting stories to tell. I can just tell from the Ringo story. So, yay. Well, thank you, everybody. And Tony and I wish you all happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa. May you have a peaceful, healthy, happy holiday. And
Absolutely.
in 2026, we hope all good things come to you. So, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Tony.
Thank
And
you, Jude. Peace and
see you
love.
soon. Peace and love.